Hey everybody, Tom Butwin here. Welcome to my channel where we talk about music. Today we've got John Mayer's top 10 best guest appearances according to guitarworld.com. We're going to go through that list in just a minute. If you're new to the channel, thank you so much for checking out what I do here. If you wouldn't mind, subscribe if you like what I'm doing. If you don't, hit the dislike button, leave me a comment and tell me why. If you do, hit the like button and leave me a comment as to why you like what I'm doing. We'll get more into the comment section later because I think it might be helpful on this video. But if you're a returning subscriber, thank you, hello, and welcome back. So let's get into this. We're going to go right to guitarworld.com and John Mayer's 10 best guest appearances by Johnny Scaramanga 2 days ago as of recording of this video. So Johnny, sorry if I butchered your last name, but we're going to see if we agree with your list or not. And we're going to go in kind of reverse order from how I would normally do this because that's how the article is set up. We're going to start with number 1 and go all the way to number 10. You can read the article and his little preamble here. I'll leave the link in the description below. Okay, first up, Buddy Guy and Double Trouble. Buddy Guy, of course, is the blues legend, vocalist, guitar player, songwriter, and John Mayer has performed with him quite a few times. This time, though, they're with Double Trouble. And if you don't know who Double Trouble is, think about Stevie Ray Vaughan. Stevie Ray Vaughan had a band called Double Trouble, and that's Tommy Shannon on bass and Chris Layton on drums, and that's who he's guest starring with here in this video from 2003. This is quite early in John Mayer's career. Heavier Things had just come out, and Come Back to Bed was kind of the first time that we saw some of those blues roots coming out in a recorded album track from John Mayer. Cool performance for sure. You see the Monterey Jimi Hendrix Strat that he's playing there. You know, it's interesting. There's been a couple times that he's been with Double Trouble, and I want to say Austin City Limits was another one. And I have to imagine that for John Mayer, being so influenced by Stevie Ray Vaughan, to be able to take the place of the late, great Stevie Ray Vaughan and front that band, it's got to be mind-blowing. Particularly because he came from, his bedroom learning Stevie Ray Vaughan songs, and now he's playing kind of in his place with this band. Of course, Buddy Guy, you combine those two things, and it's just a blues legends all around. Definitely a worthy contender for number 1, I would say. Number 2, Steve Jobs. Now, this is an interesting one, because Steve Jobs is not a musician. And those of you who have Macs or iPhones or iPads these days, you've probably seen the app GarageBand. And GarageBand, when it came out, was revolutionary for the amateur musician, for the professional musician, for anybody who is interested in trying their hand at recording digitally at the time. And in 2004, this was really a leap forward for home recording. GarageBand is a very capable program. It's even more capable today. It's very close to Logic Pro these days, which is the premier pro recording software that Apple has and that I use also. But in this performance, if I remember correctly, we'll call it performance, because John Mayer did this a few times with Steve Jobs, and they had an interesting and unique relationship. And of course, Steve Jobs needed somebody to demonstrate the capability of what GarageBand could do, so who better than John Mayer to come out and do so? It's an interesting video. Definitely check it out. It's kind of a blast from the past because we're 17 years further in technology today. So those of you who are familiar with what GarageBand started as and what it is today, I think you'll find that interesting. And it's kind of cool to hear John Mayer build something using those tools. But again, interesting because he is collaborating with someone who's not a musician. Should it be on the list? Should it not be on the list? I don't know. Okay, number 3, Fall Out Boy. And if you haven't heard Fall Out Boy's cover of Beat It by Michael Jackson featuring John Mayer, I would strongly recommend that you go check it out. Backstory on this is that when Beat It originally came out, the hottest guitar player at the time, Eddie Van Halen, took the solo. So go check out the Michael Jackson version with the solo by Eddie Van Halen. And you can hear just this iconic, very distinctive sound. You know that it's Eddie Van Halen playing from the first time you hear his guitar on the solo, just as much as you would know it's Michael Jackson singing on that song just from hearing a couple words, couple notes. So to flash forward to 2008, Fall Out Boy, I definitely wouldn't equate them to Michael Jackson, but I would equate John Mayer to Eddie Van Halen in that at the time, and arguably still today, he is absolutely kind of the guitar player of a generation, if not multiple generations. So it makes sense for him to come and throw his hat into the ring on this iconic solo. And the really cool thing about what John Mayer does is you can absolutely tell he did his homework, because there's some amazing nods to the original solo by Eddie Van Halen. But it's also very distinctly John Mayer in a new and interesting way, because in 2008, I mean, personally, I had never heard him play anything like this. It was mostly the Stevie Ray Vaughan blues type guitar playing, if it wasn't the acoustic singer-songwriter stuff. So to be able to hear him kind of go in a really wild and different direction for John Mayer was really cool. And the Fall Out Boy cover of the song, it's really good. It's really good. I mean, I personally think it's better than the Alien Ant Farm Smooth Criminal. But, I mean, I'm sure there's an argument to be had there. So interesting, and possibly one of my favorite John Mayer guest spots. I would have put this one a little bit higher. All right, Alicia Keys. As the caption states, frequent collaborators. So they have picked the Black Ball charity event in New York City from 2009 for this list. There are multiple other times where John Mayer and Alicia Keys have shared the stage. This time, though, they're doing the Bill Withers classic Ain't No Sunshine. John Mayer's done that with John Mayer Trio. Really cool versions there. Again, I probably would have rated this one a little bit higher because it's a really cool cover, cool event. And this list is tough. I'm not so sure that I can even begin to rank these things. Guitar World did it, but it's tough because it leaves out a lot of appearances, and it picks and chooses certain appearances with different artists. So Alicia Keys, John Mayer, always an awesome collaboration. I think this is probably one of the best ones they've done. I don't know. I'll have to go and do some research on that. Jay-Z, the genre-busting collaboration between John Mayer and Jay-Z in 2009 at Madison Square Garden. Now, to be honest with you, I would love to hear this happen today, because I think John Mayer is a much more interesting guitar player today than he was in 2009. After all the Dead and Company stuff, after where his solo music has gone, I think that the appearance today would be a lot different than it was in 2009. I feel like the bluesy, I mean, it's cool. Don't get me wrong. I'm obviously a big John Mayer fan, and it was cool to see Jay-Z collaborate with him. Jay-Z's collaborated with a ton of different people who are not necessarily in the rap world, so it's always fun to see that. But didn't do it for me, and I think that's just because I like where John Mayer's playing is today. And I'm thinking about, hey, what if it happened today in 2021 as opposed to 2009? But if you had asked me in 2009, I probably thought this was awesome. All right, number 6, Eric Clapton. Here's an obvious one. Mayer's been on stage with Clapton a million times. And again, like I said, it's kind of difficult to pick one performance. Now, this, I believe, is from the 2019 Crossroads Festival. You've got Doyle Bramhall. You've got, let's see, on this one, Doyle Bramhall appears a couple times on this list. Tom Petty, Mark Knopfler, Derek Trucks, covering J.J. Cale's The Breeze. It was a tribute because I think J.J. Cale had recently passed away when this was recorded. You could see he's playing a Silver Sky on this, so that's kind of cool. It's one of the only times, I think, on this list that he's playing a Silver Sky, as a lot of these are from the past when he was playing Fender Stratocasters. So interesting to see that. And again, I think it's, if you have to nail down one Eric Clapton collaboration, I mean, it's just, they've done a ton of stuff together. And I don't know that this is the best one, but it's on the list. And I think anything with Clapton, because of the heavy influence that Clapton has had on Mayer, should probably be a little bit higher than number 6. But hey, I didn't make the list. Coming in at number 7, Ed Sheeran. Now, actually, Guitar World gets this wrong because they say with a pink Jackson in hand, correct, on the guitar. Mayer accompanied the ginger one, interesting name for Ed Sheeran. I don't know if that's Ed Sheeran approved or not, at his 2015 Grammy performance of hits Don't and Thinking Out Loud. This was actually not at the Grammys. This was when John Mayer was guest hosting the Late Late Show. And so neither here nor there, but heads up, Guitar World, you do have an error in your article. This marks the first time that we've seen John Mayer playing a pink guitar, at least on TV, and I got a kick out of it because it had that 80s vibe for sure, early 90s vibe, and 2 really cool performances. Don't is a really interesting, more aggressive Ed Sheeran song that I really like. Thinking Out Loud is obviously his huge, massive hit. And so it's great to hear Mayer play on both of those. But I think the most interesting thing about this is John Mayer is a talk show host, and he's incredible as a talk show host. You know that from Current Mood. You know that from him guest hosting this show. He's had a TV show. I think it was on either VH1 or Comedy Central. You've seen him with Chappelle. He is absolutely a personality who can hold his own with hosting duties. So kind of cool to see that. Always cool to see the host of a show play with a musical guest. Yeah, I think this one probably should have been higher. I don't know. I'm saying everything should have been higher, but everything can't be in the top 3 or 4. Worth checking out, though, Ed Sheeran and John Mayer. Jimmie, Vaughan, Gary Clark Jr., and Doyle Bramhall II. Doyle's back on the list again. And Double Trouble is back on the list again as well. This is from the Double Trouble and SRV Stevie Ray Vaughan induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2015. So again, this has got to be surreal for John Mayer to come in and perform and sing. I will say the thing that's striking about this performance of John Mayer's vocals. If you listen to Stevie Ray Vaughan's voice and you listen to the way John Mayer sings sometimes, especially earlier in his career, you can hear the Stevie Ray Vaughan vocal influence on him. Absolutely. And you can definitely hear it here. John Mayer takes the first verse in this performance. And so check it out. I mean, the guitar solo is cool. He's playing his Stevie Ray Vaughan tribute Stratocaster, which I believe is the one that he paid for with his money from his gas station job back in the late 90s. Kind of cool that he's now on stage inducting Stevie Ray Vaughan to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame with that very same guitar. But his vocal performance on this is far and away the best of the 3, I think. All right, number 9, coming in at number 9, Shawn Mendes. And of course, Shawn Mendes and John Mayer are good friends, and we see them appearing on social media, each other's social media, quite a bit. They've shared the stage a few times. And again, Guitar World picked an album track from Shawn Mendes' 2018 album. Now, there's a solo about 3/4 of the way through the song. It's obviously John Mayer. It's kind of cool. Doesn't excite me that much, to be honest. I think that there's more interesting things that could be done with these two. Shawn Mendes' album, Wonder, the most recent record he has, I wish Mayer had played on that. I thought he did on a couple songs, but he is not credited, so I'm pretty sure he didn't, but you never know. It might have been kind of a secret thing. So cool solo, nonetheless, and I'm actually a big fan of Shawn Mendes. I think he's great, and I don't know. I think that hopefully something more happens in the future between these guys as far as musical collaboration goes, because I think there's a lot there, and I think that it could be really cool and interesting. And number 10, final one on the list, Thundercat. He is a very interesting character. He's a bass player, but you can see what he's holding there is not your typical bass. So this is pulled from Current Mood, John Mayer's internet, specifically Instagram Live TV show that he does on Sunday nights occasionally, currently not doing so, being that he's on tour with Dead & Company. And I would presume that unless he brings it back for the Sob Rock tour next spring, it's probably going to be a while till you see another one of these. But if Guitar World is going to include collaborations from Current Mood, then Thundercat's a cool one, but there's been a lot of people that he's had on that show that he's jammed with. So I think that opens up an interesting can of worms if you're trying to make a list of collaborations, because you probably could have filled this whole list with appearances from his friends on Current Mood. Particularly if we're not only including musicians like we had Steve Jobs earlier on. But those are the top 10. It does not in any way, shape, or form encompass every collaboration that John Mayer has done in his career. We're missing Herbie Hancock, John Scofield. Those are just some of the jazz guys I'm thinking of that he's played with. Go to the comments, make your own rankings on this. But I think more importantly that remind me and everybody of some of the collaborations that Guitar World has actually missed on this list. There are tons. So it's an interesting concept for an article. I think it's a difficult one, though, because each of these artists he's collaborated with multiple times in a lot of cases. And, I mean, there's just a ton more that you could reference for collaborations with John Mayer. And a lot of them are uncredited, too, I think. So if you want to get really deep on this, you can go down that road. So leave some comments below. Let me know which ones you think should have made the list that didn't. Let me know if any of these that are on the list shouldn't be there. And if you feel like it, rank a few of them. Or just give me your number 1 collaboration. Stay tuned. Thanks for subscribing, and we'll see you next time.